Back to my channel. If you are new to my channel, then probably I'll tell you I basically make video related to technology and all those things. In this particular tutorial we will be discussing about React Context API, right? So broadly talking we will be discussing about these three major topics. First one would be React.js basic project setup. Then we will be doing the context API basic setup, like we will be we will be sort of defining a state, producer, a provider, and a consumer, and sort of do all those stuff in the second step. And then once we are through with the React Context API, we will be comparing it with the Redux setup. So Redux is basically is a rival, we can say rival of React Context API, and it is already been established in the market. So it's better that we understand Redux, how things are different in the Redux things. And once we are done with that, we are good to go with the React Context setup and all those stuff, and then you can start using React Context in your application. Okay. Before moving ahead, I'll just want to share, this is my personal blog in which I normally share the stuff, the knowledge which I normally gather, and mainly share it with you guys. If you want to receive these published these articles which I normally write in directly in your mailbox, you can simply subscribe to this newsletter that you will be getting if you scroll a bit here. Okay. And yeah, there are a few courses, some tutorials, some basic information which is good for a software developer perspective. Okay. Now once we are done with that, I have another I am also live on the Medium, so that Medium I write somewhat similar stuff, but yeah, it's another profile in which you can sort of refer if you want to maybe read something or get up to date about the latest things. You can go ahead, right? Without wasting any time, what we will be doing is we will be basically going through our project setup. So this project was basically I set up for a Redux application and used Redux Saga middleware, which we normally, there's a middleware which we have to use with Redux application just to trigger, dispatch, and all those stuff. So this was the same application. I just updated that application with React Context stuff, so that it'll become a little easier for you, right? So firstly, for doing a basics React.js setup, you can simply go to React Basics Setup, right? So you can directly go to their official website. This is the official React website, and here you can find the command. So this is the npx is used for this is a module which don't require to install, just you can directly use the libraries. So we use create react app CLI tool to create the application. Then you have to just simply cd inside that folder whatever file or your project name you want to create. You can simply write that name. Maybe you want to create your project name as my app 1, or maybe React context app, something like that. Then you can simply write that name, and then simply a folder would be created which you can simply navigate using cd command. Once you're done with that, then simply nothing too fancy, just npm start and your application is up and running, right? So similar step I have done here as well. So this was the basic setup. It is the basic boilerplate code which you get once you do that and create React app stuff. Now inside this create React app, since it was a Redux application, so there you can find action, reducer here, but we won't be going into reducer and action as of now. Once we are done with the context API basic setup, then we will be moving to, we'll discuss this once. Okay. So what we have done is we have created inside the container, we have created 2 files, right? Like before starting the code structure, one more thing I want to tell. Basically, if you want to maybe learn about React Saga and Redux setup, hook setup, then you can simply go through this series, Redux Saga tutorial. You can find on this mindroast.com. I'll share the link in the description, don't worry about that. So here you can simply find that Redux Saga setup and basic code structure which I am currently referring, right? So but anyhow, I'll be going through the code once again. So this functional based context component which I have created for this particular specific tutorial, in which what I have done, nothing too fancy, just a functional component, and I've written a title here, right? And there's a timeout and some variable which we have created using use context. So we'll go through this at later stage, but just this is a basic functional based context component which I've created, right? So moving with the first context stuff, what we have done is I've created a context folder in which I'll be keeping my all the context, right? So here I've just created a global context which will be a something like maybe for auth, if a user is logged in or some not, or maybe some theme color which you want to maybe share throughout your application, you create a global context for that, right? So for that I have just created two files. One is for the context, another one is the state. So these two files generally can be created as a single file as well, but just for making the code bit more modular, I have just created it separately, right? So here I've done nothing. I've used a hook, that is create context hook, and just have exported that out of this file, right? So whenever we'll be importing this global context file, we will be getting this global context hook, right? Now what we have to do is we have to provide some value to this hook, so that anyone, maybe any sub component which want to basically subscribe to this particular context need to access, right? So that value we have to create. So what we will do, we will create another file, that is global state, in which we have done a similar thing. So here what I've done, I've created a functional component in which I have imported the global context, the above file, right? And there is a provider property which you can simply use, that is basically what you want to provide in your context. So I have provided a value, there is a value key which you can enter, and in that I have sort of provided a title and set title state, right? This is the use state hook which I have used, like the common hook. And sorry for this is basically a timeout application which I normally use just to prevent your eyes, because as a software developer you spend most of the time coding and all those things. So just to prevent your eyes, there is a funda which you use. This is a timeout app. If you want to install, you can maybe go to Chrome and then download it. This is free for Mac, not sure about Windows. Okay, nevertheless, so this is the use state hook which I have used. I have created a hook, that is first we provide the key or the variable which we want to create, and then another one is the function which we will be using for updating the value of that particular state, right? So I have just passed these two values inside my global context provider, right? And this prop.children is something which basically whenever we will be putting anything under this global state function, or component, any child will be a sort of will be drilled through this particular props as inside the children key. So this is how we'll be wrapping our entire application. And where we have to wrap this, we can wrap it inside like above any component. Maybe if you have a parent component, can wrap it there. If suppose you want to pass the context maybe inside some child component, some child hierarchy, then you can just wrap those child, the parent of those child under this, right, in the global state. So we have to just import it. So since this is a global state, we have imported it in our app.js, since this is the bootstrap file which we have created, right? So I have imported it, and this functional based context component which I've showed you earlier is wrapped between this global state, and this will be passed to the global state. If we go back to the global state, and inside this props.children, it will be drilled here, right? So that's how we are sort of wrapping our stuff. And if suppose there are maybe one another component, and there is a maybe two component, right? These two will be having the access of this global state. If in case we have done something like this, in that case these 1 and 2 component won't be having the access of this context. Only the functional based component would be having that particular context. So that's how it entirely works, right? So for now there is nothing as 1 and 2, so we'll be removing it for now, right? Okay, now the final step would be our functional based context component, which will be doing all the hard work, right? So inside this functional based component, we will be importing the file, we'll be sort of getting the context, right? So there are two ways. One is the use context, right? Use context is mainly the the hook which is provided by React, and so that you can get the values of that stuff, right? So this title and set title which we have defined in the global state, like these two. I'll open it simultaneously. Okay, and our functional component, where is the functional component? Okay, so see, this is the two things which we was defined in the global state using the use state, and we have used it here. So what we have done is we'll sort of use the title in the h1 tag, and we have used another hook, that is use effect hook, and inside the use effect hook we have written a set timeout, and after 4000 second, 4 second, 4000 millisecond, it will change the value of the title to some random value. So here we have done it title updated after 4 seconds, just to show you, right? So this is the basic setup, right? If you want to do more stuff, like maybe some API call you have to do, you can simply write some functionality here and then just pass it here, and once the values are you can trigger that value from our component, right? That's how it works. Now let's suppose I have to start it. I'll go inside my React Saga folder, I'll do an npm start, and it will start my project. And here you can see it is showing you the initial text, and after 4 seconds it should change, right? So it is working as expected. And yeah, so this is how it works. If we talk about the architecture, not the architecture, I will brief overview about it. So we have the context provider, that is the create context which we have created, right? Inside this we have wrapped our component, and inside our component we can use a React use context hook, which we can simply use to mainly import the values, right? Or the consume the values. So this is the basic overview of the React context API. You can do a lot of stuff. You can create like the different contexts for different scenario, and all those things. So there is another, I'll say, give me a second. I have written the written blog as well, so this will be published on all my platform. I'll just go through the draft, don't worry about it. I'll no worries if you can. So see, this is the written textual format. In this there is a way. So these are the two ways. Yeah, I have to discuss the two ways in which you can use the consumer. One is the use context hook, and another one is using global context dot consumer. So this consumer will basically consume the values, right? Yeah, so that's how you can simply consume the values. So this is my sort of the draft page of my Wix application. This application is powered by Wix, so that's why. So yeah, so this is how you can simply, what you can do, simply get the value, and you can loop through the values. This value key would be provided to you, and all those value dot title will be the value, and value dot title value dot set title would be the function. These are the two ways. So why there are two ways? Not sure about that. So basically in the class based component you can use simply this. There is no hooks in the class based component, but if you have a functional component, you should go with this one, because this is basically a more cleaner way. If suppose you want to use two or more contexts, like there is a global context, there is a child context, then it will be much easier. But in this case you have to sort of create a nested stuff, right? So that is not very, I'll say, recommended. Yeah, so I think that's all for this particular tutorial about the React context API. But still, wait, we have to discuss about the difference between this and Redux. Okay, so in Redux, basically Redux is a state management tool, right? You have a couple of things with you in Redux. You have to create a like this. You have to create an action. You have to create a reducer, and you have to import few libraries like this. There is this React. Some middleware library like Saga or Thunk. There is a React Redux which you have to use to connect to the component, and then there is Redux as such which you have to use. So these three libraries sort of puts the pressure on the entire application, right? And this generally increases the bundle size of your application, so that's not very recommended. And I don't think so that you would be liking to create a heavy application. Something which is provided you out of the box like React Context API is a better option any day. But as of now, probably I haven't worked with any enterprise level application who are using React Context API, and I'm also searching for a project structure which is well suited and what we can say well at par with Redux, right? So compare, if you both compare the Redux context and the Redux the sorry Redux and the Redux React context API, then it should be almost similar stuff, right? In Redux you have everything ready. Once you create your project and just bootstrap the project, everything is ready. Just you need to add some cases, some newer function in the project. You don't have to write the entire application there. But in React context API, you have to at least do the basic bootstrapping properly, and then create a proper code structure. Then only it will be a successful stuff, right? So that's all for this particular video. If now I'll leave it up to you that which one you like the more, the React context or the Redux API. There is no hard and fast rule that one is better than other. Both of them have their merits and demerits, but there is nothing which you can't achieve in any of these. So as far I can see, both of them can equally provide you the functionality, but it totally depends on you how you structure your projects. So that's all for this. All the links, all the video, all the tutorials links will be added in the description. You can go and refer that as well. And of course, if you want to subscribe to the channel, definitely do consider subscribing to the channel or the newsletter, whichever suits you the best. And thank you for watching. Have a great day. If any of your friend is looking after React Context API and he's struggling, or he or she is struggling with that, do consider sharing the stuff, the entire tutorial with them. That will help the channel grow and help me grow as well. And thank you for watching. Have a great day.